Bhakti Shashaloka Prodasha Nidratari Utkatihiva
B.V.V Shashaloka Prodasha Nidratari Utkatihiva
Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Hayagriva
Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Hayagriva
Narasimha Vamana Simadhuputana Rajendra Nandana Shama
Narasimha Vamana Simadhuputana Rajendra Nandana Shama
Utama Bhatama Vaibhava Jaya Dasarathi Rama
Utama Bhatama Vaibhava Jaya Dasarathi Rama
Yashoda Durala Govinda Govinda Vrindavana Purandhara
Yashoda Durala Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Purandhara
Gopi Priya Chandarika Ramana Bhuvana Sundara Bhora
Gopi Priya Janarika Ramana Bhuvana Sundara
Ravana Thakura Madhuna Gopi Jana Vastrahari
Ravanandakaya Mahanatara Gopi Jana Vastrahari
Vratira Rakala Gopa Vrindapalo Chittahari Vansitari
Radhirakala Gopa Vrindapala Chitari Vansidari
Yogindra Vandana Srimanananda Rajadana Payahari
Yogindra Vandana Srinandana Rajadana Payahari
Navinani Rajarupa Manohara Mohana Vamsidihari
Navinani Raja Rupa Manohara Mohana Vamsidihari
Yashodanandana Kandani Shudana Nikunja Rasa Vivasi
Yashodanandana Kamsani Sudana Nikunda Rasa Vilashi
Kadambakananda Rasa Parayana Vrindavitena Nivasi
Kadambakanana Rasa Parayana Vrindavitena Nivasi
Ananda Vandana Prema Niketana Fulashayo Jakakana
Ananda Vardhana Niketana Ulasara Jajakana
Gopangana Ganachita Jai Gaur Premanande.
Haribo.
So welcome to our second week on Bhakti Vaibhava. Today we're beginning Unit 10, right? And we're beginning with Chapter 9 of the third canto. So last week we heard about the manifestation of Brahma from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So Brahma had taken his birth and he has now to take up the task which is expected of him. And Lord Brahma is Guna Avatar. He is in charge of the mode of passion. So he's expected to oversee the affairs of the creation. So before he is able to do that work, he has to get the blessing. He needs to get the mercy, the blessings from the Supreme Lord. So this chapter 9, we will hear how Lord Brahma goes about requesting empowerment for his work. To do anything we need empowerment, we need to be authorized. Just like we say, Kali Yugadam Harinam Sankirtan Krishna Shakti Vininahi Pravatan. Right? Our Bengali people will know the meaning. Any Bengalis here? Prabhu. Yeah. Kali Yugadam Harinam Sankirtan Krishna Shakti Vininahi Tara Pravatan.
So the prescribed dharma for Kali Yuga is Sankirtan movement. So without Krishna's potency or mercy, no one can engage in this.
Right. There has to be the empowerment, the Krishna Shakti. You have to be authorized. Just like Prabhupada gives the example, he said, just like if you're involved in some legal proceedings, so you may hire a lawyer to represent you in the court. And so the lawyer can make different statements, he can make even pleas or whatever the client wants him to do. He represents his client in the court. The client may never come in the court, he may never open his mouth. Everything will be done for him by the lawyer. So the same way, Yuga Dharma is Sankirtan, and Lord Chaitanya is empowering people to take up and spread the Sankirtan movement. You need the empowerment, the authorization to spread the Sankirtan, Krishna Shakti. So Brahma is going to pray for the empowerment to do the work of creation. But of course this creation, this is secondary creation. This is not creation at the beginning of the life of Brahma. This is creation at the beginning of a day of Brahma. Right? At the end, at every day, well, the day begins with the creation, because at the end of the day there's a partial annihilation. The lower planets, from Swargaloka down, they're all dissolved. And then when the night is over and then we come back to the day, then they're all created again. And everything comes out of the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and you have creation going on. So this is happening regularly. At the end of each day of Brahma, there's an annihilation. And then with the next day, after the night is over, there's again creation. And Brahma has to play his part. Although it's only a partial annihilation, partial creation, but still Brahma's involved. He has to get involved there. Well, things are going on, and he's the Lord of the universe. He's Lord Brahma, so he's overseeing the affairs in the universe. So he offers this prayer, the first verse, and he's praying. He said he wants to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He wants to have that opportunity to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, actually. So there's several pages, purport's quite long in these first few verses. Lord Brahma is taking the position to ask. He's not asking the Lord for anything yet. First of all, he wants to express his glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he wants to encourage the taking shelter of the Lord. So he mentions he has understood something of the position of the Lord. He said this incarnation is the origin of many other incarnations. So what is that? Origin of other incarnations, this incarnation. How could that be? Who are the other incarnations?
Are we speaking of Lord Vishnu who appeared to Brahma?
Yes.
All the avatars are coming from Lord Vishnu, correct?
Yeah. All the other avatars are coming from Lord Vishnu. Yeah. And Lord Brahma is coming from where? Lord Brahma is coming from the lotus flower, which comes from Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Well, sometimes the incarnations come from Kshirodakashayi Vishnu also, not always from Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. But anyway, the point to understand is that the other avatars are not on the same level as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's the Supreme Lord, He's the Supreme, and all the others, they're coming from Him. So Lord Brahma describes in text 3, he said, I'm proud of my material body and senses, and your Lordship is the cause of the cosmic manifestation, yet you are untouched by matter. The Lord is always transcendental. Even though He's in contact with matter, He's not affected by it. So some people may say that that form of the Lord, actually He's not the Supreme. They won't believe, like you talk about this, the Lord, we had vision of the Lord, people went to see Lord Vishnu and I saw him, and they have no experience actually who they saw or what they saw, but they just felt like, oh, I saw him. So it's like that. Some people, they don't even admit that there is such a thing as the Supreme Lord. They say that is just mythology. That is not for us, they will say. They will say, I'm a practical person, I am materialistic, so I don't believe in any transcendental form of the Lord. So to answer these kind of statements like this, Lord Brahma has to speak like the way he does. Lord Brahma has to describe how the Lord is a person and how he has a form, because they're thinking the Lord cannot have a form. So we have to give arguments against that. Somebody may say, oh, I don't believe God has a form. You have a form and I have a form. If there's a God, he won't have a form. Because you and I have a form. We think God should also have a form. I don't believe it. So how will you argue against this? What are you going to say?
Usually what I learned from my spiritual master is, one nice thing to say is, would you agree that if there is a God, he's the source of everything? They say yes, and so that means form also must come from God, therefore he must have, it must be included within him, so God must have a form.
I didn't get all of that. Can you go through it again?
I said, I usually ask them, like Guru Maharaj does this like this, ask them, would you agree that God, if God exists, he's the source of everything? They say, yeah, that's the definition of God, he's the source of everything. From him, everything comes. So that means form exists, so form must have come from God. Therefore, the source must also have what emanates from it. So even though God has everything, form is also there within God, so God must have a form.
Prabhupada writes in Sri Ishopanishad, the absolute truth is everything within our experience and beyond our experience. So we cannot limit the absolute truth to our own thinking or our own material understanding. We have to understand that everything is actually there within the Lord. And this is mentioned here by Lord Brahma in his prayers. He said, your Lordship is the cause of the cosmic manifestation, yet you are untouched by matter. So Brahma is humble. He's taking a humble position. He says, I am proud of my material body and senses. That takes some humility to talk like that. Especially if you're in the position of Lord Brahma, because he's a very big person, he's the supreme there in the universe. And he's talking like that. He's saying, I'm proud of my material body and senses. So certainly people hearing like that, they will be impressed. I think that, yeah, Brahma's really humble. He's really putting himself down. So the Lord is described by Lord Brahma in Brahma Samhita, how he is Advaita, and he is Achyuta. He's non-dual and he's infallible. That's a big start to getting to know God. If you can understand that he is infallible and that he is also, what was the other thing? He's infallible, he's non-dual, and he's absolute, and he is inconceivable. So, Lord Brahma is beginning his prayers for creative energy. He's encouraging all of us by his prayers, and he's encouraging us that just as Lord Brahma is taking shelter of the Lord, we should also take shelter of the Lord. Taking shelter of his lotus feet, that is the proper way to approach the Supreme Lord. And you can see in the prayer, in text number 4, Lord Brahma prays that, text 4, text 4, Lord Brahma says that you have manifested this eternal personal form upon whom your devotees meditate. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. So that the different living entities, the demigods, these people who are assisting the Lord in the ruling the creation, they would be actually eager to arrest people who are not following and who are not surrendering. But we're seeing in this chapter so far that even though the demigods were not very much surrendered, they were still pious. And these kind of prayers, well, this is Brahma's prayer, and Brahma's the chief of the demigods. So Brahma wants to get the mercy. He wants to be empowered. Prabhupada writes in the purport, persons who are addicted to the impersonal feature of the Lord, whether in meditation or otherwise, are all pilgrims to hell, because, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, impersonalists simply waste their time in mundane mental speculation because they are addicted more to false arguments rather than they're addicted more to false arguments than to reality. False arguments rather than reality. Therefore, the association of the impersonalist is condemned herewith by Brahma. How do you defeat an impersonalist? What happens? Right? Who's going to be the impersonalist? Prabhu will be the impersonalist. Right? Present the impersonal philosophy. Tell us.
God can't have a form because we see that all form is temporary in this world. And our form is limiting us, so how could you limit God and say He has a form?
Alright, who's going to challenge Him? Yes?
Srila Prabhupada said that the Lord can be also perceived and also it's inconceivable, so you cannot understand. It's beyond your perception. Just like you can't see an atom, but an atom exists. Or you can't see many intricate parts of the body, but it exists. Similarly, the Lord's form is there. You can't see it.
And what's the form made out of? Everything still comes down to the same Brahman. Brahman is the substance of everything. Only Brahman.
It's transcendental. It's not made out of like blood, pus, and how you're made with bones and stool and urine. It's beyond that.
Yes, beyond that means Brahman. There's no form in Brahman. Brahman is just impersonal. There's only just God's energy, the energy of God. God is just an energy. And you're also that energy, and I'm that energy.
Help her. Challenge him.
So everything comes from Brahma, that's also true. But Brahma means not, that's the one perception. Like in our Indian education system, there is a math in lower classes like 2 or 3. So they can subtract only the greater number to smaller number, like 3 minus 2 only. Like who are in class 2 or 3 or 4, they know the mathematics should be go like this. Like you can subtract only small number from greater number. But if you go beyond that, like 6 or 7, and there you can know that you can subtract from 3 from 2. So this is the math. So it's same way. If you know about God more and more, then you can understand that there is a Brahma, that's effulgence, and beyond that there is a form of the God. So if your intelligence is lower, then you cannot understand. Like a small boy can understand that maths. He only understand if he go or if he promoted himself that class only. So
Who is this form of God?
Not Krishna.
So Lord Krishna, he has 16,000 wives. He's engaging in so many materialistic activities. We see Lord Krishna also. He's not here. He's not present. How could you say Lord Krishna is God?
So, Prabhupada also described in Srimad Bhagavatam that you cannot understand Krishna because he is adakshaya, beyond our sense perception. So, we are used to see like the man is just running behind a woman only. So in same way, we are seeing the transcendental pastime of Krishna like that's way only. So if your glass is black, if you use the speckle of the black glasses, then you can see all the world like black. So first you just take off this glass, and then you can see what actually is.
You say Krishna has 16,000 wives, right? Did you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can a common man have 16,000 wives? It must be someone extraordinary beyond your perception.
And all of them were satisfied. They had their palaces, their gardens, and their opulences. No one complained. So it's not like one wife, they start complaining. 16,108 wife happy is something inconceivable.
16,000. 16,000 wives, but that's still how even greater beings. We see Lord Brahma. There's so many great beings. They do many amazing things also, but we say they're not God. So how do you say Krishna is God?
So you're accepting the presence of Brahma. Where did Brahma come from? We are saying
Brahma
Brahma
came from Brahman. He came from Brahman.
He came from Vishnu's name.
Vishnu also came from Brahman. Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu all same Brahman. Same manifestation of the same one Brahmani form.
So you say you're Brahman. So why do you die?
This body dies, but Brahman stays.
So what happens after death?
What?
What happens after your death?
I go back to Brahman.
Brahman, then why did you fall down?
Because I wanted to. Because I wanted to experience life as I was God and I wanted to experience what it's like.
There must be someone higher than you who is overlooking why you should fall down, why you should go back, right? There must be some higher power overlooking.
No, I chose to come down here.
Then choose to go back.
So please leave your body.
I can't because I put some.
Why? There's someone else higher than you.
I put restrictions on myself.
Then
If you are
choose.
about to come here, please leave right now.
When
Yeah.
I leave my body, I'll be able to be back to Brahman. But when I came to this world, I
Why?
chose to come here.
You can leave right now. You're Brahman. You're all powerful.
I'm putting restrictions on myself.
You must
while I'm
understand
here.
that someone
If you are putting
Your
them
lifespan
on
is
yourself, then you can leave the restrictions.
What are those restrictions?
The restrictions are that I came here to experience what it was like to be in a body. But once I leave this body, I will be back to Brahman. And anyhow, you're also Brahman, so why argue? You're Brahman, I'm
But
Brahman.
what if we don't believe that there is Brahman, we believe there is God? What is our destination going to be?
What is your destination going to be? You choose. You're Brahman. You can go, you'll just reincarnate if you want. Or you cease material activity and you can go back to being Brahman.
Where does Brahman come from?
Brahman is the substance behind everything. It doesn't have a source.
Well, what do you do in Brahman? Once you go there, what do you do? What is your activities?
You just feel the love, man.
But then we don't want to feel love. We want to do something. We want to do some activities.
Well, then that's why
We
you
want
come
to
here.
serve someone. We want to serve the Lord and utilize our senses. It's difficult for us to just do nothing. So what do we do?
That's why you come here. You come here to this world to forget your Brahman. Then
But then this world has so much miseries. It has birth, death, old age, disease, and there's like the Adi Atmik, Adi Bautik, Adi
That's only
Dainik.
'cause-
So
that's only 'cause you're in Maya.
I can't feel happiness, ultimate happiness. And in Brahman, I also won't feel ultimate happiness doing nothing.
that's because you're in Maya. But when you come to the stage of Brahman, you realize that you're Brahmabhuta Prasanatma. This is what these rascals do. They just continuously, they like to argue.
But there's a Supreme Brahman as well. Right?
Yeah.
What about the Supreme Brahman? There's Brahman.
But-
You're Brahman, everybody's Brahman, we don't argue. But there's a Among there's also one Supreme Brahman over everything.
Who's that?
It's Krishna.
That's the absolute truth. That is the original cause of everything. That one Supreme Brahman. From all the sparks of the Brahman, there's one Supreme Brahman. The sun, the rays of the sun, the rays come from the sun planet. So the Brahman, we're all sparks of the Brahman, but there's the original fire, which is the Supreme Brahman. So we have our origin in relation with the Supreme Brahman.
A good verse I use when I'm talking to impersonalists is the Vedanti Tat Tattva Vidas Tatva Vyadhyana Ramyam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavanti Shavita. It works. The scripture says, yes, Brahman is there, but there's also Paramatma, Bhagavan.
Yeah, there's different aspects of the absolute truth. Yeah. Like that, you can argue forever with the impersonalists and Brahmagyanis. You can go on. Kali Yuga, it's difficult. Nobody will admit they're wrong. They'll keep arguing and find some way around everything. So we encourage people, best preaching is to give them prasadam and to chant Hare Krishna.
I'll be accepting prasadam now.
Let them hear the holy name. Chanting of the holy name. Of course, they don't like much to hear the holy name. That's the problem. Alright, so anyway, we see here. Krishna. Okay, persons who are addicted to the impersonal feature, whether in meditation or otherwise, are all pilgrims to hell. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 12.5, who knows? 12.5, Bhagavad Gita, without looking in your Bhagavad Gita. What's the verse?
No, the English.
Yeah? What's the English?
English is basically saying that for those who take up the impersonal path, it's very difficult. Those who are embodied, the impersonal path is very difficult. But for those who surrender to me, it's very easy.
Okay. Yeah. So impersonalists simply waste their time, mundane mental speculation, because they are addicted more to false arguments than to reality. So Lord Chaitanya usually would just simply avoid them. He didn't even like to go and sit with them or take prasadam or anything. He would just avoid them. He would just chant Hare Krishna. But still, one time they met at Vinasa. That time Lord Chaitanya gave us some mercy. So Prabhupada writes, the association of the impersonalists is condemned herewith by Brahma. So Lord Brahma's association, it's very dangerous to associate with the impersonalists. They can contaminate you. Rabindra Swarup Prabhu told us that when he was working to do a PhD at the university there, he said to Prabhupada, he said, Srila Prabhupada, I'm going to go and study and write this thesis. He said, but in the course of my studies, I will have to read books. I will have to read books by different impersonalists. I'll have to read some of the commentaries of Shankaracharya and so on. And Srila Prabhupada, he said, you've written in purports that if you hear the commentaries from these impersonalists, then you're doomed. So he said, what will I do? What will be my position? He said, I'm going to have to study these books and write about them. And so Prabhupada told him, he said, yes, so you have to be very careful. He just told him like that, you have to be very careful that you don't get affected by them. So like that, we have to go and mix with people, we have to deal with people. Sometimes dealing with people who have different philosophies and so on. You have to be polite with them. Lord Chaitanya very politely changed their minds and could change their thinking. It doesn't do any good to get angry at them and shout, Mayavadi, atheist. It doesn't do any good to get passionate with them. Just keep calm and be polite with them, and and better to avoid arguments with them. Because Kali Yuga, people don't like to admit defeat. They won't like to say that. Alright, so the first few verses are all about taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. That's important for us. Here Prabhupada talks about the lotus of their hearts. So if you take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, then your heart will also be connected to the Lord. We have to be attached to the Lord's lotus feet. And that means service. Our connection with Krishna is through service. So at the end of the purport of text number 5, Prabhupada writes, Para Bhakti, or spontaneous love of God, is the basis of an intimate relationship with the Lord. This highest stage of relationship with the Lord can be attained simply by hearing about Him, His name, form, quality, etc., from authentic sources like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, recited by pure unalloyed devotees of the Lord. So sometimes it's argued that our Krishna consciousness movement is for neophyte devotees, that we're only Vaidhi Bhaktas, we never come to Raga Bhakti, we never develop this Para Bhakti, this spontaneous love of God. But actually that's not true. And within our Krishna consciousness movement, certainly you can also go on and develop this Raga Bhakti and Para Bhakti. You can come to the platform of spontaneous love simply by engaging in the process of Krishna consciousness, hearing and chanting and being very absorbed in the service of Krishna, and staying away from the association of materialistic non-devotees, being cautious to protect and nourish our creeper of bhakti by hearing and chanting. Today is Pushya Abhishek. It said Krishna is like a doll in the hands of the gopis. And the gopis took advantage to dress Krishna and decorate him with many beautiful flowers and ornaments. So today was a festival, there was a special decoration of the deities, a special darshan. And Prabhupada said, usually there will be a very nice feast also, and the deities should be taken out in procession so that everyone can see the beauty of the deities. I don't know how much happened today, but that's usually this festival was Vrindavan. It's a festival which takes place in Vrindavan. But Mayapur is not different from Vrindavan. Whatever goes on in Vrindavan usually will also go on here. Alright, so Lord Brahma is continuing to offer his prayers, and he talks about some people who are filled with lamentation. They're not devotees, they're in the bodily concept of life. They're thinking, I'm the body, this is mine. They don't take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And because they don't take shelter, they're always in anxiety. There are always so many anxieties, so many problems. Oh, I have this problem. Oh, you don't know. It's so difficult. It's all right for you guys. You're a brahmachari. I've got my family. I've got my home and my children, my family members, all depending on me. You don't know. It's so difficult. Right? How do you answer? What do you tell them? How are you going to counsel this kind of person?
Tell them that the same process applies. Right? We're hearing you chanting, you also just hear and chant.
Yeah. What do we do with people? Are you married? Any of you ladies? Are you married? No? You married? No? Married? This one at the back, she married? Yeah? Got children? No? What about marriage?
No children.
No children?
Yeah.
Married?
Yeah, married.
Okay, so you have the husband, at least you can depend on the husband. Eh? Of course, when you've got children, it's much worse, you know. It's one thing to be married, it's another thing to have children. It's a big responsibility, taking care of children. But Prabhupada deals with it, because Prabhupada was a family man himself, so he had the experience. So he deals with it in the purport, and he talks about how people should cope with it. How should you preach to your mind when you start thinking in that way? You know, what should you do, huh? You start worrying, oh, well, no money, oh, this problem, oh, my health, oh, I have to take care of this person, oh, I have to do that. You don't know what it's like. You're just a carefree brahmachari. Right? Carefree? Are you carefree brahmachari?
No.
You imagine. Full of anxieties, huh? Full of anxieties. Well, if you manage, yes, a lot of anxieties, definitely. Taking care of other people, that's an anxiety. So how do you deal with it? What's the solution?
You give up the sense of proprietorship, you surrender to Krishna.
Yes, right. Prabhupada explains like that. Give up stop thinking you're the proprietor. Stop thinking you're the controller. Just remember what you are the servant. Yes, a surrendered servant. So that's important, that attitude of being the surrendered servant. That can help us to overcome anxiety. What is that song by Bhakti Thakur? Which she says, Manasa deho geho, yoki chumor, arpilo tuapadi. Right. My body, my home, my everything I have surrendered at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So I'm simply your surrendered servant. Even if you handle me roughly or make me broken-hearted, you're always my worshipful Lord. So Prabhupada writes about these things, how to protect. People are worried, how to protect my wealth, how to keep pace with friends and relatives, right? Maybe you become a devotee and then you go back and you meet people who are not devotees and they say, you joined the Hare Krishna, so look at you, have you got any money? Have you got any savings? Who's taking care of you, Is Krishna taking care of you? We've got the new car, we got the new house, we've got this, look at you, like that, So we can become bewildered by these kind of things, these situations. That's why you got to be careful. Sometimes it's better to just stay away from people that you knew before. When you become a devotee, Prabhupada said becoming a devotee is like when you get married. Before you're married, you have friends, but after you're married, you have different friends. You have different friends. Because your situation is different. And so like that, becoming a devotee, the people who you knew before were not devotees, and they don't appreciate Krishna consciousness, and they don't have any respect for it, and they think, oh, you're foolish, oh, you're wasting your life. They have no understanding about the glories of devotional service and the life of a devotee. They cannot understand how the devotee is actually free of anxiety. If they've taken shelter of Krishna, we don't have any anxiety, right? I've got a manager over here, our manager over here. His anxiety is on behalf of Krishna, right? Accepting anxiety for the service of Krishna. That is transcendental. That is not ordinary. To thinking how to expand the Krishna consciousness movement, how to make more devotees, how to distribute Krishna consciousness more widely. These different things. We can be in anxiety for these things. That is transcendental anxiety. So Prabhupada writes, the pure devotee, he never thinks of himself as the proprietor of his home, because he's surrendered to Krishna. It's Krishna's home. You bring, especially you have the deity there in your home. When you bring the deity there, then that home becomes the deity's home, and we're there as a servant. Just like they brought Govindaji from Vrindavan, they brought him to Jaipur. And they brought him to the palace of the king in Jaipur. And so after some time, the danger was gone, Aurangzeb died, and there was not so much trouble from the Mohammedans anymore. They were not breaking the temples. And so the people of Vrindavan thought, we can bring the deities back to Vrindavan now. So they came to Jaipur and they told the king, we want to take Govinda back to Jaipur now. But the king said, no, just a minute. He said, Govinda's come here. He said, I cannot tell him to go. Right? If Govinda's come to my palace, I'm not going to tell him to go. And the king said, from now on, he said, I will make Govinda the king, and I will be the servant. And that's what happened. He made Govinda the king. And the king became the servant of Govinda. So, a pure devotee may be attracted to accumulating wealth, just like an ordinary man. Yeah, ordinary man, we all like to get money, collect money. But the difference is, a devotee acquires money for the service of the Lord, whereas the ordinary man acquire money for his sense enjoyment. You know, people sometimes think, you Hare Krishna people, you're very materialistic, you're always trying to get money. Right? We were always on the streets, you know, on the streets giving out sticks of incense and trying to sell magazines and asking people for donations. Other people, other sects and so on, they would give the books out free, but we would always expect people to pay us. We'd ask people to give money. But we're asking the money not for ourselves, but for the service of Krishna, for the service of the temple and the Krishna consciousness movement. At one point, people were surprised when we purchased a big building in Manhattan. The devotees, you know, we were always on the streets in New York and Brooklyn, Staten Island, and everywhere, running around trying to get donations from people. And then all of a sudden we purchased this big building in Manhattan, and people were surprised. Oh, the Hare Krishnas, they were always there begging dimes from people, nickels and dimes, and all of a sudden now they've got this big building in Broadway, near Broadway in Manhattan. So it was a surprise to them. Anyway, we didn't maintain that building. We gave that building up. But the point is, why not? For Krishna, Krishna should have a nice home. We want to give Krishna a nice place to live. And so we like to engage people in Krishna's service. So asking people to give donations, it's actually good for them if they contribute for the service of Krishna. What are they going to do with their money if they don't give it to Krishna?
Sense gratification.
Huh?
Sense gratification.
Oh, what? What kind of sense gratification? Intoxication. Might buy some drugs, marijuana, or whatever.
Buy meat.
Weed. Huh?
Meat.
Huh?
Meat.
Meat.
Buy meat.
Huh?
We'll buy some meat.
Meat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gambling.
Hmm?
And gambling.
Yeah, you know what else can happen to their money? You can spend it on lawyers. Get involved in legal affairs. Somebody brings a case against them and you have to defend yourself. You hire a lawyer and you have to spend a lot of money on legal affairs. Or doctor's bill. You go to the doctor. Oh, you have to have this, you have to do that. Oh, you can spend a lot of money. Oh, so much big money is spent on lawyers and doctors. These two things take away the wealth of people very easily.
Isn't it true that devotees also might have to have lawyers and doctors in? So isn't that apply for both devotees and?
Well, lawyers, we have our devotee lawyers. We do have devotees who are lawyers, and if it's some case, usually you get the devotee lawyer to come along and defend us. I know in Russia and places like that, they have devotee lawyer come along every time when there's some problem.
U.S. too. I just met with our lawyer last night, or Tucson. He's helping us because one of our satellite projects got shut down. He's in Mayapur right now. Talking to him about it.
Oh, he's a lawyer?
Yeah, Naveen Chand he's helping us to get this building back in the service of Krishna.
Yeah, there's been a few devotees who went into law and became lawyers and did that service on behalf of our devotees. There's that one devotee, what's his name? Oh.
Maha.
Huh?
Oh. Mahabhahu Prabhu or the Mahadev Prabhu like this. I don't remember, yeah. But he is a lawyer.
And there's one devotee in Florida. He used to be in Europe, he used to be in Switzerland. And he was there in Switzerland for some years, and he brought Prabhupada there in Geneva. And Prabhupada stayed there for a week. No, Shisha was never there yet. Huh?
Session was a lawyer.
Yeah. Huh?
Session
Mahabharata.
was also a lawyer. Session.
He wasn't in Europe as far as I know.
He was in Florida.
Huh?
He was in Florida.
Yeah, Florida, maybe in Florida, but he was never in Europe.
There's another lawyer in America that's famous. He helps the devotees out. I forgot his name.
And there was the other devotee who was in, what was it? The Radha Damodar party came there and they had a big competition about who could eat the most prasadam.
You did not agree?
No. And it was down in Florida somewhere, down there. But it was before Alachua. Before Alachua came later. It's a more recent thing.
He's wearing Gainesville, I think.
Gainesville. Maybe it was Gainesville, yeah.
Gainesville is just right next to Alachua. That's where the Prabhupada began. Alachua.
Anyway, like that, we do have devotees who became lawyers, and they went into they studied law, and they took, because it was such a problem that hiring lawyers was such a big expense. Just like Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram Mandir, they had like 40, 50 cases going on at one time. So many different cases, people on our land, or some disputes about land, and different issues came up. 40 or 50 different cases all going on at the same time. Big problem. So it's good to have your own lawyers at particular time. But Prabhupada said, the acquisition of wealth by a devotee is not a source of anxiety, as in the case for a worldly man. Why not? Why is it not anxiety for a devotee?
Because he uses it in Krishna's service. He uses the wealth in Krishna's service.
What do you think?
He uses his wealth in Krishna's service.
Uses the wealth in Krishna's service. Yes, right. Supposed to use the wealth in Krishna's service.
Unattached.
Yeah. Prabhupada says that having money itself can be a very dangerous thing. You can get attached to it. You can think, oh, this is my money, or I can use this money, and we can forget about Krishna. It can become very dangerous to have a lot of wealth. It's described as like poison teeth, accumulating wealth, because the thought of sense gratification comes. Remember Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, who was it was told, the personality of Kali was told, you can reside wherever there is
Gold.
yeah, wherever there's hoarding of gold, wherever there's an accumulation of wealth. Why? Why was Kali told he could live there?
Yes.
Because all problems are from gold.
Huh?
All problems are from gold. Yeah.
There's greed. There's greed that you want more and more wealth to enjoy more and more. And
Yeah. That,
Greed, lust.
The problem is when you get wealth, there's a tendency towards sinful activities. That you'll be more inclined to eat nasty, inauspicious foodstuffs, and to engage in all kinds of illicit connections, and want to enjoy the other sex, and want to take intoxication and these things. Like that, people become inclined to these same kind of activities the more they have wealth, the more they have money. So we have to be careful when we collect wealth, when we accumulate wealth, we use it for the service of Krishna. That's important. We accumulate wealth for the service of Krishna. Get a nice building for Krishna. Prabhupada didn't, one devotee, there was this one man in London one time who was coming, he wrote to Prabhupada, he said, Swami Prabhupada, he said, I want to buy gold ornaments for the deities. Prabhupada said, no. He said, I don't encourage this. He said, if you buy gold ornaments, he said, the problem is it will attract thieves. You have a lot of expensive gold or valuable jewels and ornaments, people will steal them. And Prabhupada said, we've seen this in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, the temples there used to be very opulent. They had many valuable jewels, but many of them got stolen. Different people came, stolen. Of course, South India, they found like in Anantapadmanabha temple in Trivandrum, they found treasures below the ground, you know, immense wealth. It came from the kings. The different kings would buy very valuable ornaments and present to the deities. So that a lot of wealth was used in that way. But it's dangerous. The valuable ornaments got put in the cellars. They were never used to decorate the deities. They just stuck in the bottom in the cellars below in the basements of the temple. They never used them for decorating the deities. The Sri Vaishnavas, they worship the Lord with Aishwarya, with awe and veneration, and they like to dress the deity with many opulent jewels, with different diamonds and sapphires and gold and so on. That's not our mood, because not particularly, although Prabhupada said we should worship the deities in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan, but actually the deities are Radha and Krishna. And Radha and Krishna are in Vrindavan. And Vrindavan, Krishna is decorated with forest flowers. But the mood of Lakshmi Narayan is different there, that's more opulent. But still, Prabhupada was very cautious about how we decorate the deities. And he didn't want us to buy a lot of expensive ornaments, because he said it will just attract thieves. And at one point Mayapur even got attacked because people thought the deities were gold, and the dacoits came, they wanted to steal the deities. In South India, there's one temple, I was just recently visited this one temple, Sri Vaishnava temple, Ramanuja. It's called Statue of Equality. Hyderabad, yeah. And they have this place, Statue of Equality, and they have this huge statue of Ramanuja, solid gold. Solid gold. Anyway, people have to pay 100 rupees to get into the temple. Everybody has to pay 100 rupees, you want it. There's one Buddha in Bangkok, they have this one Buddha, it's solid gold. They didn't know it was gold until it was quite recently they found out that the deity was actually gold. It had been covered with a layer of plaster, but beneath the plaster was the gold. They found out. People have funny ideas about how to preserve how to use their wealth in the service of the deities. So devotee, we use our wealth, we try to use it practically, put on nice festivals. What are some other ways you can use your wealth for Krishna? What are you going to do? You get a big inheritance, right? How are you going to use the money? What are you going to do with it?
Build temples.
Build a temple? Okay.
Vaishnava Seva.
Vaishnava Seva?
By
Distributing prasadam.
Huh?
Distribute prasadam.
Distribute prasadam,
Print books.
print books, yeah. And anything else?
Take care of devotees.
Devotee care? Yeah. We don't want to encourage the devotees to become too lazy though. You start taking care of the devotees, oh this is great, you know. Devotees may take advantage, they don't want it to work anymore. We have to be cautious about that. Devotee care. Okay. So Brahma talks about the unfortunate people who don't want to do any hearing and chanting. They simply want sense gratification. So Prabhupada writes, the Lord's pure devotees, however, take compassion upon such unfortunate persons, and in a missionary spirit try to persuade them into the line of devotional service. That is the challenge in preaching, to convince the unfortunate people to be engaged in Krishna conscious activities. Very difficult thing, to get people out of their Maya, out of their comfort zone in the material world. How to persuade them to take up devotional service. How do you do it? Prabhupada told about Charlie Chaplin. Did you ever see that movie, Charlie Chaplin? Yeah? Charlie Chaplin, he ripped his jacket, right? There were tails at the back. But he didn't worry about it. He came out and became more enthusiastic. And he was dancing with great vigor and enthusiasm. And all the other people were looking at him, and then they all followed him. They all went and ripped their jacket the way he ripped his. And then this way they all became enthusiastic. So the same way, Prabhupada was encouraging devotees. Like that, when they were coming, the first devotees came from the USA, Shamsundar, Mukunda Gurudas, and they came, and Prabhupada got them to shave their heads, to come there to England with shaved heads, and to preach. And that was in the 1960s and 70s. Everybody had long hair. Everyone's growing, all the young people growing with the long hair. And then these guys come along with shaved heads. It was like something really out of this world,
They were all there when you joined, huh?
No, I joined after. No, they'd all gone to India. Prabhupada took everybody to India. So Brahma's talking, these poor creatures, constantly perplexed by hunger, thirst, cold, secretion and bile, attacked by coughing winter, blasting summer, rains and many other disturbing elements, overwhelmed by strong sex urges and indefatigable anger, I take pity on them. I am very much aggrieved for them. Well, that's the devotee, that's the mood of the devotee, that compassionate nature. We know all about these things in Mayapur, like blasting summer, coughing winter. Sounds like Mayapur. Rains, a lot of that there here also. So, Brahma's unhappy, he's worried about them. Are you ready to take all their sinful reactions?
I missed it. How do we persuade someone to take it to the devotional line? You mentioned about Charlie Chaplin. I couldn't connect. How do we convince someone to take to devotion?
Yeah, how do we convince them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have to be enthusiastic. And that's the one very important thing. That enthusiasm. If they see that you're happy and you're enthusiastic, then the people will want to know, help me, I want to become happy like you, How come you're so joyful and I'm so miserable? So the Prabhupada said, the devotees of the Lord who voluntarily take the responsibility of raising the foolish materialistic sense enjoyers are as confidential to the Lord as Lord Brahma. Well, Lord Brahma is very confidential servant of the Lord. You can also become confidential to, if you take that responsibility. Try to deliver the fallen souls. Of course, this is our Krishna consciousness movement. We go everywhere, we open centers, we're trying to deliver the people from all of these unfortunate conditions. How to help people? We have outreach programs, right? We try to reach out, outreach programs, going out to places, trying to find people, try to give them some Krishna consciousness. You got any good programs to give people Krishna consciousness? You got Food for Life program there in Tucson?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Our big outreach is called Krishna Cove, though. That's our main outreach.
Krishna Cove.
Krishna Cove. Cove, like a ocean cove. C-O-V-E. Cove.
Cove.
Krishna Cove.
Oh.
That's nice. It's a preaching program for university students and young people. Big lot of devotees.
What do you do?
Basic program, prasadam. We do about a 45-minute talk. We don't hold anything back. Really strong philosophy and nice kirtan. And we have a good group of devotees who preach afterwards during the prasadam, go meet the new people and speak to them. I'm in charge of that whole program. So.
In the university?
It's at our temple, but our temple is only about a 5-minute drive from the university. But a lot of people come in that are non-university also. Just young people we meet at Harinam and that type of thing. It's a good outreach program and successful.
But it's in the temple?
It's on the temple property, yeah. But it's not in the temple building. It's not in the temple room. We have our own building for the Krishna Code.
Oh, you have a piece of land there, isn't it?
Yeah. Tucson has it's like a big kind of community. It's like a few acres of city block. We have like a whole block almost, half a block.
Oh.
Small block.
And people living there?
Yeah, there's about 27 devotees living there.
Householders as well?
A lot of householders.
A lot of householders?
Yeah. Not really brahmacharis.
They rent houses?
Yeah, some of them rent, some of them are full-time doing service. And some of them are full-time.
The houses were constructed by the temple?
Some were, and some were already, one was already there. Two were already there.
Well,
There were 2 houses that were already there,
uh-huh.
and then the temple building itself with our restaurant. Mostly we're supported by our restaurant. We have the Govindas. And then we have some other buildings that were built by the temple. That's like the holding the brahmacharis and the pujaris and that type of thing. Some of the householders, they live in small apartments. A lot of Nepali devotees in Tucson.
Oh, Nepalis, huh? Really, yeah. And Nepalis are quite prominent in our movement. Even in Thailand we have a lot of Nepali devotees. Yeah, Nepalis. And in Japan now also there's a lot of Nepali people, devotees. Of course, what about Americans? Do you get any?
Yeah, most of our preaching, because Tucson temple is kind of different from most temples in America because we don't have a very big Indian congregation, and the Nepalis live at the temple and do service, but most of our community of people that have become devotees are almost all Americans, young people Americans. I think when we get back, there could be 10 new people initiated from all Americans, boys and girls. My Guru Maharaj is there preaching in Tucson most of the time. And so,
What's his name?
Jivananda Prabhu?
Jivananda.
Yeah.
Is that the one from Dallas?
Yeah.
Oh.
He lives in Tucson now.
Oh, it's in Tucson now.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so he's there, and mostly it's all American people. Yeah, most of all our people we preach to are Americans. And it works, the program works. Prabhupada's program is we preach, but we don't preach lightly, strong preaching. And good prasadam, and nice kirtan, and then the devotees make an effort to connect personally to everybody. But we have it so that that's our main kind of outreach, but then every week, every night, there's something going on around the town for people to come tune into. And so people can get a little attached and they start coming to programs regularly. And then
Every night.
every night there's something. We have either a Bhagavad Gita class.
And that will be on the temple property, will it?
Not every time. Sometimes we have harinams. People come on that. And then also we have another, that's what the lawyer's helping us with. We have another property across the town. And that's called the Mantra Oasis. And we have programs there also. And so on Saturday night we have a big program there. Although it's kind of been stymied by this, some people are complaining we had to shut down for a while. So this Vivian Shampoo lawyer is helping us try to get back in business.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty successful.
I heard that in USA the preaching is not spreading as much as in Asia. So is that true?
Yeah, USA is not very, preaching is not as good there in a sense. And not in Tucson though. Tucson's really good. And Atlanta, those boys are really doing good. And
Atlanta. Bhakti Vikas's men.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah.
They're
Making
still there.
Making lots of devotees.
Yeah.
And of course by Sheshka Prabhu.
But San Jose, that's Indians, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's mostly Indians. There's not so many Western preaching going on. Tucson has Western preaching. San Diego, Bhajan Maharaj and Balaram Prabhu. There's some good preaching there in San Diego. But besides that, like within the interstates, it's mostly Indian community temples. Even Phoenix, which is a big, really huge city. But the temples are mostly Indians.
Why is that though?
Because I think what happened was after the, what I've been told is after the 80s, and when all the gurus kind of started leaving, there was some challenges. Some of the devotees that were all in the temples doing Sankirtan all day and they were making money for the temple, they left and they were getting married and so forth. And so then the temples were struggling to stay open, so the Indians started coming to the ISKCON temples and supporting the temples. And so when they support the temples, they start coming, and then Westerners don't always feel so comfortable in the Indian setting because the food is different, and sometimes the preaching isn't the same as like I noticed that Indians sometimes give classes differently than Westerners are receiving. And it's just for a Westerner who's just coming from a Christian background, coming into a room and it's just all Indians and there's these deities and they don't, it's kind of confusing to them. So when there's Westerners preaching to Westerners, it seems to help.
Definitely, that seems to be true. You go to Russia, in Russia you don't find too many Indians there. You find a lot of Russian devotees. It's all Russian.
Yeah.
And if you come to China as well, in China, we only have Chinese devotees, we don't have any.
You spend a lot of time in China, Maharaj?
I did in the past, it's become a bit more difficult with visas and stuff, but I used to spend a lot of time there. Yeah.
Where are you at most of the time?
I'm always in the Far East, like Hong Kong, Taiwan, and China, and then Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, these places, and then India. And sometimes I go even to Middle East.
Bhajan Swami, he told me that there is some preaching in Myanmar.
Yeah, Myanmar. Burma used to be called Burma, Myanmar. Yeah, there's 15 temples there. But in recent years, the last couple of years, you couldn't go because there's like a war going on there, an internal war. There's a rebel army and the people trying
Someone's
to...
at the door. No.
Yeah, Bhakti Narasima Swami said it's pretty inspiring because it's very oppressive government, yet there's a lot of devotees there.
Yeah, devotees at Nepal. The Nepali from Burma, but they're in Burma. Most of 95% of Nepali there in Burma. Interesting.
In Kenya there's Nepalis too.
No, not Nepal, Indians.
Oh,
Gujaratis.
Indians.
Yeah, Kenya. Yeah, I spent some time there in Kenya. We have nice temples there. Mombasa, Kenya, Kisumu, Nairobi. In Uganda, I don't know anything in Uganda.
Only one in Kampala. One temple.
Mhm.
That's very struggling to keep up.
Yeah. You see, there used to be British colonies, and at one point the British brought a lot of Indian people over there, and the Indian people developed there. They built the railway there, and they did a lot of farming there and made it very productive. And Indian people are quite good, and they have the Vaishya nature, and they did a lot of business. But at one point there was this one crazy politician who took over Uganda, and he threw everybody out of the country, all the Indian out of the country. So they all came to London that time. I'd just become a devotee. It was like 1971. I just become a devotee, and they all came from Uganda, and they were there in London. And they were not allowed to bring anything with them hardly, just whatever they could carry on their back. And they came to London. But now they're all very wealthy there in London, because they're Vaishyas, they could pick up the business again. Gujaratis, mostly they were Gujarati. And Gujarati are pious people usually. Many Swami Narayan followers.
You never visited USA?
Oh yeah, I was there for a while. Yeah, USA. Sure. Gotta go there. Been Sankirtan there all over the place. Okay, we'll have a break.
Okay, son?
Yeah, they should do it.